Hi.
To Wakanda.
Wakanda forever.
Alright, what's up, and welcome to another episode of Infinite Productions. I'm here with my brother James, and we are doing a review. We're going to be doing our review of Black Panther, and going to be talking about writing, and we're going to be talking about character, and we're going to be talking about production values. Okay.
Let's do it.
Concise thoughts on the writing of this film is that it's very good overall. I really this is kind of I felt like the writing created the world. That's something I really never said before. I think that the writing really did create this world that we could go into and that we could see. I think the writing of the characters was incredible. I think the character interactions created by that writing was incredible. And I do just think overall that that Black Panther is an incredibly written film. It's written to be followed as a story. It's written to be followed seeing its characters interact and such. So I do think overall the writing of this film was very, very, very good and probably the best written Marvel film since Civil War. I think specifically that Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan's characters were written very well. And we'll talk about that more in the character section, but those are my thoughts on writing again. So
Yeah. I also think the writing was overall very solid. Now, there's no denying that this movie does follow some certain origin story tropes, but that's expected out of any origin story. I think it has to follow certain story beats. Even the way it follows them, it's not that bad. And the tropes ultimately don't matter because you really care about the main character and his story, and they do a good job of, instead of making the origin story the focus, they make the focus more of Black Panther balancing his roles as a warrior and as a king. And we really get to see in the movie the dichotomy in his head of trying to bring those two together instead of just being one or the other. Something that was also very important to the story that made it work so well was that the villain Killmonger directly affected all of Black Panther's character arc. He wasn't just a passive villain, and that's been a problem with a lot of other Marvel movies, that they've had pretty weak villains. Besides Loki, most Marvel villains have been pretty underwhelming for the most part. But in this one, this is probably the best written villain, maybe even better written than Loki, because he's just such a compelling character who you can understand and sympathize with, and also who the main character, who Black Panther understands and sympathizes with, and even somewhat changes his viewpoints based on what the villain gives him. So the fact that the villain and the hero directly affect each other is very important to making this story work. I mean, like I said, there's a few origin story cliches here and there, but it's not that bad in the long run.
now, in terms of character, like I mentioned, Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan's characters were both very well done, and their characters specifically just were so intriguing because of their interactions. The hero to villain interactions were very well done in a sort of natural way. It was a very good build of their dispute against each other. They're just ethical dilemmas against each other. They're just the way that they thought and the way that their characters were developed were very different, designed to be villain and hero, and it was just really incredible character development. And like I already said, Chadwick Boseman and Lupita Nyong'o's characters also, I felt their interactions were very good. I felt their interactions were very very representative of a family, very representative of that type of thing. And I felt personally that their interactions were pretty much gold every time they came up on screen. So I really just loved the characters. I also really loved Daniel Kaluuya's appearance in this film, and Andy Serkis's character was fantastic too. And just overall, I think the characters were very, very good.
Yeah, there was a very stellar cast here. I personally think that Michael B. Jordan was the best part of the movie. Anytime he was on screen, I was even more invested in what was going on. And he wasn't in the movie for a very long time, actually, but when you look at the time frame. But whenever he was on, he just really commanded attention from the audience. And I wish he had been in it a little more, but he really just he puts his all into Killmonger, into making him a compelling, interesting villain who you are still rooting against, but you at least understand some of his motivations. I'd already liked Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther in Civil War. He was probably my favorite part of Civil War. But we got to see more of him in this movie. We got to see more of a side of him besides just the sort of tough, silent persona he had in Civil War. We got to see a more charismatic side to him and just a side that exposed his flaws and also showed the type of hero that he was. And I just really think Boseman portrayed his character excellently, and you were just really rooting for him throughout the whole movie, at least I was. I also liked Lupita Nyong'o. Forrest Whitaker was good as a mentor character. Perhaps the mentor character was a little cliched, but I think Whitaker brought enough of his own persona to it. Someone that we didn't mention in the previous recording who I thought was good was Dainai Guerra as this warrior character. She did a really good job at playing this strong, silent type. She does good at that, as we've seen in her portrayal of Michonne in Walking Dead. She sort of has that a similar persona in that, but in this movie she plays that type of character completely differently to the point where I didn't even recognize her until I saw her name in the cast at the end of the movie. I also liked Andy Serkis. He was very animated in his role, which was fitting because he plays animated characters a lot, and I wish we could see him in more like in-person roles. As far as weak performances go, the only ones I'd say was Angela Bassett as the mother character, which wasn't entirely Angela Bassett's fault because the character didn't have much to do. Martin Freeman's character also just felt like he belonged in a different movie, in my opinion. He didn't really seem to fit this movie with his like being quippy and all that stuff. It felt more like it would belong in one of the more comedic Marvel movies, and this one wasn't. Black Panther just wasn't entirely a comedy, but overall the cast was really good.
Yeah, just something I didn't mention either was that I felt that even though Forrest Whitaker was great, he didn't have a huge role. I just feel like one of the things that I kind of disliked about the movie as a whole was that it didn't feel like the minor characters were having any real impact on the world.
That's true.
To me, Forrest Whitaker definitely did have an impact on Black Panther in a specific way.
Yeah.
I guess Daniel Kaluuya's character would be kind of minor, even though he had a pretty good amount of screen time overall.
Yeah.
And then same with Martin Freeman and Winston Duke's character. I feel like they could have done so much more with both. I wouldn't really even consider Martin Freeman a minor character because he had a pretty dang good amount of screen time too.
Yeah, but he just didn't do that much to affect the story.
With the minor characters overall, I just feel like they didn't really impact anything, and I felt like they could have if it had been done that way. But
I mean, at least the main character villain interaction is good here,
yes,
which makes
that's
for
important.
That other stuff.
It's very very important to have good hero villain interaction. That's something that all writers and filmmakers know that's what an audience latches onto. They latch onto that visceral interaction.
Yeah. It's just Marvel hasn't always seemed to realize that, and they did that in this movie.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
I am glad they did.
Yeah, the production value of Black Panther obviously incredible. My favorite aesthetic part of this movie was the ancestral plane. I just loved everything about it. The look, the whole ethereal type of ambience that it gave sent chills down my spine. The ancestral plane just held so many mysteries, and it was so interesting how Black Panther could have chosen to stay there, but he didn't. He chose to leave, and that's just an interesting character choice. But I love the aesthetic of the ancestral plane, and I also really love the look of Wakanda. The planes and the vehicles and just the whole aesthetic was very interesting, very much similar to their big skyscraper type of deals with their cities and such. And yeah, I also really love that beginning animated scene. If you've seen Black Panther, you know what I'm talking about. Very, very interesting and unique way to do exposition, and I loved it. I loved just all the production stuff really seemed to be seamlessly woven together as a whole.
Yeah, I think this movie visually was really good. Like you said, I also liked the ancestral realm. I really liked how the combination of like purples and blues and all colors like that really gave off this mystical vibe. Really just felt this place was very otherworldly and very mysterious. I really liked that world, and it was just visually incredible. I also liked the world of Wakanda. It was interesting world building. We don't get to see too much of that in Marvel movies usually because they take place in like American cities, but this one had a very specific world, very specific lore, and a lot of that came from how the movie was presented visually. As far as a few weak visual points, I guess some of the CGI looked a little fake at times, like there were these rhinos at the end of the movie that didn't look super realistic. There were a few moments where it seemed like there was too much green screen going on, and also a few of the fight scenes were underwhelming. Like the beginning fight scene was too dark to where you couldn't see much going on, and the ending fight scene wasn't as good as it could have been, but I mean, the action was not actually the focus of this movie, which I was fine with.
I love Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman's interactions with the sonic speed train.
Now, yeah, that part was cool.
That part
I did
was
like
really
that
cool.
part.
I felt, yeah. Overall impressions and rating. My overall impressions is it's probably going to be in my top 10 movies of the year. I don't know. We'll see what other movies impact, but this one definitely has a very solid chance of being in top 10. If not top 10, definitely top 15. Just like I said, everything, it was just sewn together so beautifully, the story and everything. My rating would probably be 4 out of 5, I would say.
I also felt this movie was really good. It's a step up from what Marvel movies have been recently. I think a lot of people have felt underwhelmed by Marvel lately. I've been in that same boat. Not that movies like Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, or Spider-Man were necessarily bad. They just don't really compare to the Marvel movies that were in the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 era and past. But this one is more a step in the right direction. It feels different for a Marvel movie. It focuses more on creating a serious, well-realized story with some pretty compelling themes. They're not done in a way that's super preachy or whatever, but they are done well. The performances are just great, and you've got a really good hero and a really good villain. I'm gonna have to go with your rating as well and say a 4 out of 5. I'm not sure if it'll be in my top 10. It could be. I don't know, but it'll at least get an honorable mention.
At least honorable mention. Yeah. Well, that's really all the thoughts on that. Just a great movie overall. Great job, Marvel. If you all like this video, you can press the like button right down there and hit the subscribe button for more weekly videos. And we'll be coming at you with another review really soon. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.